Hello, welcome to Quilted Cactus. We are starting another new tutorial. We are going to do a tutorial on the Aurora bag by Petal sewing patterns. A cute little bag. I've made a couple of them already. However, we're going to create a zipper placket versus sewing the zipper directly on to the curvature of the bag. I decided to go ahead and add a placket because some may have difficulties doing the zipper like that with the curve. She has fantastic instructions on how to do it. However, I did struggle myself personally. So I came up with the placket in order to still create this bag because I really love the bag. It's really cute shape and a great size, and I love the little added design on the side there, the little tassel-like look of the bag. I don't know how else to word it because it's not really a tassel, but anyway. And so this pattern, it comes with two handle sizes, one that's 17 3/4 and one that's 21 3/4. We are going to make the 21 3/4 inch size of handles. And also the pattern doesn't have a slip pocket, and I will add a slip pocket in it as well as the zippered pocket that comes with the pattern. What I will do is when I get to pages that I will be making changes to, I will give you that information. So in the event that you choose to do a zipper placket, you'll know where I deviate from the pattern. So what I'm going to do is I will try to follow the pattern. Well, my intention is to follow the pattern page by page in order that she has you do it, so that way you'll know where I make the changes. Now, the changes that I make, I cannot give you pattern pieces for the changes that I make, but I can give you like the zipper pocket. I make a minor change. I can tell you what I subtract from my zipper pocket. And then you would just take that from the pattern, that the piece that she gives you, and you would just subtract it. Now the zipper placket and the slip pocket, I will give you those dimensions as I get to those pieces. When I give the pieces, let me reword this. When I go over the pieces, I will give you the measurements at the time I go over the pieces, as well as when I post this, as I post these tutorial, I will have it in the description. Now I will make this in two parts. I have actually tried to record, have recorded couple of other bags when I made this, but the video became very long, and I have been trying to figure out a way to make it a little shorter. Number one, I'm going to split it because there's more pieces to this. It's a small bag, but there are a few pieces that you got to sew together to make the bag. So it does take a little longer, plus the final completion of the bag. I will add that to when we do the lining, and that will be separate. So when we get to the lining part, we will completely sew the bag together and have a final product. And that usually sometimes adds, of course, to the lining time, because linings typically don't take an extraordinary amount of time. But I will go over the lining as well. And let me see. Let me go ahead and give you the dimensions of this bag. This bag is 8.5 inches tall. And that is at the peak point here. Or I'm sorry, the 8.5 is in the center, and then it's 10 inches tall at the sides. Okay, sorry about that. I started to give you wrong. It's 11 inches wide, and then it is 3.5 inches deep. And it does not taper on the sides. The gusset is the same size, so there's no taper to it. It's just what I really liked about it, and I will try again to do the zipper, but what I liked about it was the narrow at the top. I like that that look where you didn't see a zipper placket, you didn't see a big opening. So that's what appealed to me. So when I designed the zipper placket for this bag, I try to make it as narrow as I possibly could. Again, I'll give you those dimensions. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the pieces that are required for this pattern, and then addition to the pieces that I came up with. And to add to that, I'm going to make another video because I didn't want to go into a lot of detail trying to do just the tutorial. I am going to make a separate video to show you how I came up with the zipper placket, how I adjusted the lining to allow for the zipper placket. So that in case you, again, choose the zipper placket, you know where I got the idea from and how I adjusted it, so you can do it yourself. Because I have to protect the designer of this bag, and also I do respect their designer. And also, I also thank Ivana, the designer of this bag, for allowing me to do this tutorial, for allowing me to do one with the zipper placket. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate that she is allowing me to do this. So, with that being said, we're going to go over the pieces real quick. First of all, you're going to need the hardware that you're going to need. You're going to need gate rings, and I will show you real fast. It's gate rings for the that's going to hold the strap to the side of the bag. And the gate ring, if you're not familiar, it's kind of like if I can do it the right way, because I'm, there we go. The gate ring has that little opening there, so you just push it and it opens up. So this is what you're going to need. I had thought of using an O-ring, which, I mean, obviously it's the same thing, but an O-ring is fixed. You can't open it or shut it. So with the O-ring, you have to attach the strap and do everything all together when you do the bag, and or when you sew the handle. And I mean, it can be done if you really want to try it, but it's a lot easier using the gate rings. And also another thing, if you use the gate rings, a thought that I had is if you design a bag that's kind of stylish looking, but you use just the regular strap, you can alter the look of the bag by changing out the standard strap. The standard strap here. This is just something I thought of. You can alter it by, since you have a gate ring, you can just remove it and add a chain strap. And that can, I mean, honestly, just adding a chain strap can alter the look of this bag. So that's an option. I mean, honestly, if you want just to do a chain strap, you can do that. But I think having the two options, that would be great. It's just something that I thought of when I seen that she designed the bag with the gate rings. You'll need 2 zipper pulls, one for your main panel or the main opening, and then one for the zipper pocket on the inside. Of course, you're going to need your zipper. She gives you the measurements for the zipper tape. Since my pattern is geared, since my tutorial is focusing on the zipper placket, then I will give you this measurement of the zipper tape that I'm going to use doing the zipper placket, because it is different than what she gives in the pattern. So I want to make that clear. The measurement of the zipper that I give you, to zipper tape for the main closure, it will be different than what she gives in the pattern. So when we get to that, I will give you that measurement when we go over the zipper placket. So you'll need zipper tape. You'll need, if you don't use zipper tape, you will need 2 zippers. One for the zipper, again, one for the interior pocket zipper, and then one for the main. I use the zipper tape. I started using that after I started making multiple bags, and I found that this is the most economical way to do a zippers on bags. Honestly, it is. Okay, so you're going to need, for your main panel of your bag, you're going to need an upper front panel, and then a lower front panel. These will get sewn together. And if you, as you noticed, I have opted to quilt my center panels. So again, I should reword this, an upper center panel and a lower center panel. And again, I'm showing you, I opted to quilt mine. The fabrics that I'm using is Tulip Bees. Let me get my note here. I have it written down in case I forget. It's Tulip Bees. It's her Persuade Me, which is a faux suede. And this is called medium wash. It's a very soft, and it quilts wonderfully for being a faux suede and it being a thin, because it's a thinner vinyl. So it does quilt really well. I would use a longer stitch length when I do this, if you do this, and I would, this is quilted 1.25 inches apart. So my lines are all 1.25 inches apart. I have one that I made where they're just 1 inch apart, still on the Persuade Me, worked well. It still worked well, but I like the look of the wider diamonds that I have. Okay, so enough of that. And then the back center panel. Oh, I want to show you my thread. I am using Kasaya's Cotton Candy variegated thread, sayaswag.com, and the Tech 70. And I absolutely love this thread. This is, I'm going to tell you what, I think is my most favorite thread she has. If there's a bag that I can make that matches, that I can put on a bag, I mean, I'm going to do it because it is, I love it. I love the colors of it. It's just, I think it just adds so much to the bag. Character, I guess. I don't know. Okay. So you got your center panels. You need side panels. Now, you're going to need 2 sets of side panels. You're going to need the set for the right side and another set for the left side. Well, so make sure when you do your pattern piece, that you flip it and do mirrored. Okay, so you're going to have your pattern piece is going to be up. You're going to cut 2 with the words up, and then you're going to cut 2 pieces with the word upside down. So that how you get your mirror. If you're concerned that you're going to forget to do this, mirror it. My suggestion would be, and I have done this in the past, is print 2 of these side panels. Take 1 piece, mark it out where it's got the words on it, and just kind of take a black marker. And I mean, I'm being honest, take a black marker, mark out the words that kind of sort of tells you what it is. But and on the other side, print this side or cut this side up. I mean, that's a good way. And then you have 2 pieces and you know what you need to do. Okay. So, then you've got those pieces. And then let me get my other pieces just one moment. Okay. So you're also going to need 2 pieces for your handle. So your handle, you're going to have, now again, like I had mentioned, I'm cutting my handle is going to be the 21 3/4 inch, the longer of the 2 options that she gives you. So when you cut your handle, you're going to need 1 piece of handle that is longer than the other. So when you cut your pieces out, pay close attention to the pieces, because you'll see one that's got the same measurements on there, but they're 2 different lengths. So pay close attention to that, because it did confuse me a bit when I first read it. I kept thinking something wasn't right. So you will need one that's shorter than the other, but it's still the 21 3/4 inch length, and she does have the numbers on there. So just pay close attention to that. And I mention this stuff again because when I read the pattern pieces, I had to think a couple of times about it and look at it. So I just want to make sure it's clear for you when you cut it. All right, for the little side tassels, you're going to need 2 longer pieces. Okay, you're going to have 2 pieces that are long and then 2 shorter pieces. That is correct. It's going to tell you 2, it'll tell you 1 measurement for one, and then it'll give you another measurement. That is correct. You want to cut out 2 of each, because this is going to be on the side panels, and you'll see why as we get it when we do this portion of the piece, or the pattern, or the bag, I should say. I tried to prep this, and they're coming undone a little bit, so I'll have to fix that when I get to it. Okay, and then you're going to need your gusset, 2 gussets. Pay close attention on your gussets. You're going to have one end of each gusset's going to have the corners snipped off. So you see that, how you got the corner snipped off there, and this is this is squared off. This is the top of the bag. That's where you're going to make your mark for where your strap handle's going to go. That's where this is going to go on this right here. So you need to make sure when you make your mark, it is on the side that has the corners snipped off. So you'll need 2 of those, exactly the same. And then you can go ahead and mark those spots when you do that. I just used a little chalk pens, because it's wiped. I can wipe that right off when I get done using it. Okay, and then because again I'm doing a zipper placket on this, you're going to need 2 exterior pieces for your zipper placket, and then 2 lining pieces for your zipper placket. Now the zipper placket, I cut my zipper placket at 6.5 inches by 1.25 inches. It's very slim, but again, I did this to try to achieve that narrow opening. Not really want to say a narrow opening, but the looks of the bag being not, boxed off at the top, I guess I should say. I'm trying to think of the right words and I can't think of that. So that's what you're going to need for the zipper placket. Again, 6.5 by 1.25 inches. I did try 1 inch one. The seam allowances get in the way, and when it's finished, there is no difference between using 1/4 inch more than the 1 inch, and it's a lot better to do the 1.25 inch. Now, if you choose to do zipper placket, you can go a little wider if having it this narrow concerns you. You obviously can go 1.5 inch, that's fine, but honestly I really wouldn't go, because the size of the bag, since it's a small bag, I really wouldn't go any more than a 1.5 inch if that 1.25 inch concerns you. Okay, and then my zipper is, I'm trying to remember what my zipper length was for the bag. I will give that to you when I cut it, because off the top of my head I don't remember the exact measurement of the zipper. I can tell you I have it longer than it really needs to be for a couple of reasons. Well, number one, of course, to adjust the zipper to where I want it to lay nicely on the top of the bag. And number 2, to have it a little longer to work with when I assemble my bag. But I can't remember. Again, I will get that measurement for you here when I get to the zipper placket. Okay. Additionally, you're going to need your base, 1 exterior and 1 lining piece for your base. For your lining, you're going to need your zipper pockets. She gives you measurements for the zipper pocket, but because I'm adding a zipper placket and I have to adjust my lining pieces, I cut 1/2 inch off of her measurements that she gives you, the lengthwise, not the width, the length. And that I know for sure will not be too short. But if you cut it the exact same she tells you, it will definitely be too long. That way, when you get done with it, if you feel it's still too long and it's going to get in the way of your seam allowances, you can snip a little more off, but just 1/2 inch off is a good number, so you're not, I know 1/2 inch is 1/2 inch, but you're not starting off wasting. Since I am doing a slip pocket, my slip pocket that I'm adding, the measurements for that, and I do have that number for you. What I cut for my slip pocket is 8 inches by 10 inches. So you want it to be 8 inches wide, 10 inches long. That's going to be for the slip pocket. And then in addition, you're going to need a zipper, my brain, I'm telling you what, a zipper overlay. And then you will need like a little bias or a slip pocket trim piece. And you're going to cut that at least 8.5 to 9 inches. Preferably you want it to be the 9 inches, because that gives you that little bit of overage, about a 1/2 inch on each side, because it helps to lay better on your lining when you do your lining pocket. I put my little name tag on the inside with my in the one of the either the pockets or either pocket. I'm not, you know, it just depends, because I don't have my tags for my exterior yet. They're on their way. So I put my little tag on the inside currently for my bags. Then you will need 2 lining pieces. Again, these lining pieces are shorter than the pattern calls for, because I made my own lining pieces from the existing pattern. I will make a separate video on how I came up with the size, or how I created that. And because we are doing a zipper placket, and I want my zipper placket to lay down in the bag, not on the top of the bag, or the edges, I should say. I have an upper lining panels, and then I created these out of her pattern piece. I just used the shape of the pattern piece to create these. And then we're going to have 2 gusset pieces. Now, the gusset pieces that these are cut, these are full rectangles. I do not have the snips out of the lower lining pieces, because I did it out of the upper lining gusset pieces. So again, and then I know I'm repeating myself, but I don't want to confuse you, but these are full rectangles, okay? And then I have 2 upper lining pieces, which will be the exterior of my bag. Because when I first did my zipper plackets, and I cut my bag and then I created it, and I used the lining pieces for the full exterior, or the full lining piece, you can, which is not bad and it's not ugly, but if you want that cohesive look at the top of your bag, these will stick out if you don't do this. So these are, so this is where I did my, cut off my little corners on the tops of my upper gusset pieces. Okay, that is all the pieces that you need for the bag. I know it's doesn't sound like a ton of pieces, but it's enough to you know, try to keep straight. Again, I shortened my zipper pocket by 1/2 inch. My slip pocket is 8 by 10 inches cut. If you're using directional, I would make sure, because if you use a directional fabric for your slip pocket, make sure that when you cut it, again, the 10 inches is on the long edge, because you're going to fold it and attach your lining, your slip pocket trim at the top, and that way if you've got an upside down part of it, it's on the inside and it's not as noticeable, of course, as it would be on the exterior pocket. And then my zipper placket is cut at 1 1/4 inch by 6.5 inches. Okay, again, I'll have that all in the description. I just kind of want to didn't want to reiterate that real quick. Let me put some of these pieces back in here, so that way I'm trying to keep them in order, so as when we get to those pieces, I know where they're at, and we're not, this is the very last step here. My zipper placket goes there, zipper. All right, so we're going to get right into it. Not right into it. We're already 25 minutes in the video and we're not right into it, but we're going to get going. And anything that's repetitive in the making, I'm going to go ahead and lower the camera while I'm talking. Anything that is sorry about that. I was lowering the camera and I hit Siri again, and I'm telling you what, I keep doing that. I'm tired of myself doing that. Anyways, as I was saying before I knocked my camera off, Anything that's repetitive in this tutorial, I will be pausing my camera and then completing that step, and then I'll show you the final product. That number one is so you're not watching repetitive movements, and number two, so it will help with the length of the video, because you don't want to keep watching the same thing over and over again, nor do you want to keep you don't want to hear me all over again. And you know, I think it's probably, it makes it a lot better. Okay, so we're going to start out with the video, or the tutorial. You're starting out with number one. You want to make sure you mark your centers on a few pieces, and I'll tell you real fast the pieces that we do. And I will be turning pages, although I've made this bag a couple of times. I will be turning the pages. That way, I can stay consistent with how it's written, and then let you know anything that's changed out. So the pieces that you definitely want to make sure you mark the centers of is the top, and I do still mark the center of the bottom. She doesn't recommend it in the pattern, but I still do it. But the top and the bottom of your upper center piece, and then the top and the bottom of your lower center piece. And I mark the centers on these just so I can match them up better when I sew these two together. You want to mark your centers of the top and bottom of your back center panel. You want to mark the centers of your gusset pieces, mainly just the bottom piece. But if you are want to, when you put the bag together and want to make sure it stays center, I still go ahead and mark the top of the gusset piece as well. And that's so when I put the bag together, I got those markings as placements. And then you want to mark the centers of all four edges, all four sides, I should say, of your exterior base piece, all four sides. Because that's how you're going to line it up when you put the gusset together with the base, and how you put the bag together. So you want to make sure all four sides of your base, the centers are marked. Okay. Also, you want to mark the center of your straps. Now, with the straps, you obviously can't do snips, because on your straps, when you mark the centers, all your sides will be folded in. So what I did is I marked the center with that chalk pencil. So that's wipeable. So I've already got the centers marked, because that is key in putting your strap together. So both straps, you want to mark the centers of. You want to mark the centers of the top and bottom of your lining. And then the center of your lining gusset. You want to mark the center of that as well. Now, typically that's one full piece. I cut mine out in sections. I think it's because I did that because I was not really rushing, but I was trying to cut out, and I just did it in a fashion of when I pulled the pieces out. So my lining gusset is in separate pieces, just like my exterior, which is okay. It's still going to match together, just like the lining gusset. So, but typically you would cut that out as one full piece. All right. And again, I just wanted to go over that, because marking and centers is very important in the making of the bag. Now, when she goes over in the pattern, placing of the interfacing, I used Decoville Light on all of my non-quilted pieces. In the pattern, because the pattern shows the way of making it with the zipper attached directly to the bag, she has you put the interfacing directly up against the top, all of the top parts of the bag. That is not necessary when using a zipper placket. So you can cut approximately 3/8 to a 1/2 inch off of your interfacing to make sure you stay out of your seam allowances. So that's something to note of your thing. But I did not put any decavilles since these are quilted. No decavilles needed. It still gives it nice, because of the quilting and the foam, it still gives it nice structure. Okay, so we're going to start out with placing the front center panel and the upper center panel, or I should say lower center front panel. That's a lot of words. And then the upper front center panel. We're going to sew these together. So you're going to place this right side up with the curve going down like a sad face, curve going down, looking at you. And then you're going to take your upper piece with the, and put it, you're going to take where you're going to look at it like this with the piece. If you look at it, it goes together like this. You're going to take this piece and you're going to turn it upside down where it's like a smile. Now it looks kind of funny because you're going to be sewing curves, but it works out. If any of the bag makers were quilters, you'll know how this works out. So first you're going to place it on your centers. Let me grab a couple clips here. Oops, I don't need a bobbin. I grabbed a bobbin too. All right, so grab some clips. First, you want to put your clip in the center. I go ahead and put a couple in so that it doesn't move. Since this is a faux suede, it won't shift as much as if I was using a smooth vinyl, but we'll still go ahead and put a couple clips in there. And then you're going to take one of your sides here, take it and go down, and then you're going to line it up. Now it will peek out just a little bit. You'll have a little bit of like a little dog ear. That is what you need it to do. Go ahead and clip that, and then do that to the other side. Go ahead and fold that down, and then mark that. If for any reason it shifts a little bit here in the center, that's fine. Go ahead and you can fix that and work that out. But placing those clips there when you first start folding it and bending it, it'll help hold it as much as you can, and you won't have as much to shift. And then once you put those clips together, what you're going to do is just go ahead and just kind of squeeze it shut, and then it works itself into the curve, and you should just lay really nicely when you do that. And then just put a couple clips in here, go to the other side and do that. And then your upper piece will stick up because it's going against the way it's supposed to go. So your upper piece will look like that. It'll have that up there. And then you're going to go in and sew these two pieces together at the seam allowance that she gives you in the pattern. Now, I sew all my pieces together at a 4.0 stitch length. That's my preference. And also, I am sewing on a Juki 1541S. I've had this machine since the first of the year, and I absolutely love this machine. I had some troubles with it at the beginning, but it was the way the machine came to me. I'm just gonna say that. But it has since, once I got all them little situations ironed out, it's been great. Always back stitch, and then just kind of work with your curve. Be careful with that. Let me get my light on. There we go. I'm going to get my little light here. I need my little bit of a light for my sewing, because it gets, as many lights as I've got on here, my still right where I sew sometimes gets a little dark. There we go. There we go. Not my face. There we go. So I'm just going to stitch and just kind of work with the curves. Go slow, especially since you're sewing with the curves. Now, this machine did not come with the measurements on my throat plate, so I had to draw lines on it. So, and then back stitch at the end. And then we're going to keep our threads clean. Where's my box? I'll get my garbage box. Okay, so then you're going to take this and then fold it out, and it'll just fold out straight and flat. And then there is what it looks like sewn together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go in the back and then flatten it out, the seam. You're going to open the seam up and flatten it. Now, I do have some foam here. If your machine doesn't like the foam as much, you can snip out some of that foam if you quilt it like this. But I should be okay doing this. Now, I'm going to top stitch on both sides of the seam. So I'm going to top stitch here and here. Top stitching is 1/8 of an inch away from the seam, where the seam is. And you typically go at a larger seam stitch length. I'm going at a 5. That's what I did all my quilting with, is at a 5. So I want to be consistent with that. Flatten it out. And then go ahead and do your top stitching. Again, you want to go 1/8 of an inch away from where the pieces were sewn together. And then just make sure your seam lays flat. And then do the other side. And then just snip. You'll have a little bit of dog ears that come off to the side for when you flipped it up. Clean that up. And then that is your front panel right there. So you can see I've got the top stitching on both sides. And then that's the front panel. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to add the sides to our front panel. So you're going to grab one side of the side front panel here. That's going to be one, and then you're going to get the mirror image of it, and it's going to go on the other side like that. So you're going to sew the first one on, and then I have found, in order to make sure these match up well, is I measure this. I start it from the bottom, because if you notice in your pattern piece, the bottom of the side panels has a little flat spot. That's what I line up with the bottom of my piece, my center panel piece. So just go ahead and then get it clipped up. And then you're going to sew this on at the seam allowance in the pattern. Let's see, there it is. Forgot to go down a little bit. Okay, and then you're going to open up your side panel. Okay, and then sometimes it does measure off a little bit. You can clean that edge up, but in order for it to line up with the bottom like this, you want to measure it. But see, it measures off the bottom. Probably what mine is off is because when I quilted this, you do lose a little bit of your piece. You get like not kind of shrinkage like. I could have quilted it and then cut the pieces out. That would be an option, but I didn't lose a ton. I mean, it's enough that I can just do a quick snip to clean that edge up. That's not a big deal. But typically you don't have that. So then what you're going to do, again, you're going to open up your seams like that, just like you did this. And then you're going to top stitch on both sides of the side panel. So I'm going to do that real quick. I will go ahead and do a pause and then do the top stitching, since you already see me top stitch here. And then I'll come back and show you this. And then we'll talk about the remaining pieces of the front panel. And then we'll go from there. Be right back. Okay, so there we go. I've got my side panel on, and I have it top stitched on both sides. And this is what the back looks like so far. My seams are open with the top stitching done like that. So what you're going to do then is you're going to do the exact same thing to the other side of this front panel, just like I did before. I'll clean up the top once I get this piece on. That way I'll know the proper trimming that I need to do, the proper length stitch cutting. And then for the back panel, because it's one full panel, obviously you don't need to be doing any additional stitching like in the front, like we did the top and the bottom. The back panel, all you got to do is just attach the side panels to the back panel. So I will do that off camera since it is just repetitive. And it's just a simple, it's one full piece that you're going to sew your side panels on. So we'll go ahead and get these sewn on, and then I will be back and show you once I get this front and back panel completed. Okay, so we're back. My front and back panels are complete. So you see there's my front panel there, and then this is my back panel here. And I did, like I said, I did the exact same thing as I did on the front panel by sewing the side panels. I cleaned up my tops. This one was just a smidgen off because this was a full quilted piece, panel piece. So there wasn't as much shrinkage as having the two quilted. So I just made sure they measured up correctly and they're of equal size. So we're going to take these pieces and we're going to set them aside. Okay. Now we are going to move on. We are on page 10. I'll set these up here. And then we are going to move to the handle connector pieces. Okay, so that's the handle connector pieces are these little short pieces here. You're going to have two short pieces and then two longer pieces. So what you're going to do is you will have one end will have the stabilizer, a short piece of stabilizer, because that's where your hook, your gate ring is going to hook to, so you'll need that stabilizer so it doesn't stretch or pull at your materials or your final, whatever you choose. And then you're going to mark the center of your piece. Mark the centers. You can use a permanent I just used a pencil. So you're going to mark the center, and then you're going to put double-sided tape. Now I use 1/8 inch tape on each side instead of putting a center piece there. A lot of people will have you just put a center piece of double-sided tape, which is totally fine. Whichever you like the best. This is just what I started doing when I was sewing on a domestic. It just guaranteed me not getting my tape in the way, because I couldn't use 3/4 inch tape, because it would always, my domestic despised double-sided tape. I got yes, let me try this again. I got skipped stitches all the time, whereas I don't get skipped stitches on this machine. I just try to avoid getting the tape, my needle all gummied up with tape. But anyways, so you're going to take that, and then you're going to remove the double-sided tape from one side of your piece, and then you're going to fold it in to the line, and you will go up to the line, and then what I typically do, and this is not in the pattern, this is just something I do, I will go in about 1/8 of an inch on one end that's going to be folded over. I will go in about 1/8 of an inch and just cut me a little bit of an angle, because I fold these up to that line, and it gives me a little bit of a, I don't know, just the slightest little angle. So when this piece is folded down, it eliminates the worry of that peeking through on the side. But as the pattern's written, you just go ahead and go down the line and just fold it in. So I wouldn't, you don't, if you're not comfortable doing that, just go ahead and do how she has the pattern written, because of course that's what's most important. And then, there we go. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to fold it directly to the center like that. And that's going to be one of your sides. I've already got the other 3 pieces done. I have 2 long pieces completed, and then already 1 short, and this is my second short. I need to fix one of my long pieces because it started to come loose, and it's a little off-centered, so let me fix that real fast. Get that back up to the line. I had tried to have these clipped, but looks like it worked itself loose a little bit. There we go. That's just because I've had them sitting for a couple of days already taped. So you just want to have them that's best to the center, touching as best you can, because you're going to put two pieces together, and then that will keep, so you don't have extra, you know, overhang on the sides peeking. So then what you're going to do from here is you're going to take the one long piece and one short piece, and then you're going to get you some double-sided tape. Oh, no, you don't want to do, yes, I'm sorry, I second guessing myself. Let me make sure I keep moving on to the pages correctly so I don't misguide you. Okay, now you can take, now you can do this, you don't have to do it this way, but you can, it'll help hold your pieces still, but you can get a piece of double-sided tape and just, I mean, in the dead center of this is just put a little bit here. That just kind of helps hold it. Do not go up towards the stabilizer end because this piece will be, one of the pieces will be folded down and you will be stitching in a specific space. If you're going to do it this way, just keep it down towards the bottom, like something like that. And then all that's going to do, again, is just help hold these pieces together so they don't move around when you're sewing them together. You can clip them if you're more comfortable clipping, then you can clip them. Otherwise, just put a little bit of double-sided. Okay, so I'm going to remove that backing, and then what you're going to do is on the ends that do not have the stabilizer, you're going to match these ends up together, making sure they're flush with each other. You can hold it with your finger, or you can clip it to make sure it doesn't shift before you start holding it down. And then you're going to go ahead and press these two pieces together and just kind of use your fingers to guide it, making sure, I just kind of do a little feel test and then press it down to hold it. That's why I use the double-sided tape. And then you're just going to hold it down and press it. And then what you're going to do is you are going to top stitch around the whole entire piece. You will go up to the top and back down along the side. Now it will look like this. You will have that shorter piece and then you'll have that overhang, but you still will go past this and go all the way up to the end and back down on your top stitching. Okay, now my advice would be starting at the end here where the pieces meet, where the pieces are flush with each other. So you start there because you can, there are strap ends that you can get to cover these. Since this is a 3/4 inch finished strap piece here, or strap connectors is what they're called, you can get little heart pieces of strap ends and you can cover that end. I will get some. I think I have some. I'm pretty sure I do have some, I hope, in 3/4 inch of the hardware that I'm using. I'm using a gunmetal gray hardware, so I have to double check to see if I have them. But I'm going to start my stitching here on the end. I will back stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and get that going, and then get hold of my threads, and then go ahead and stitch. Oh, can't get a hold of it. There we go. I like to hold on to that way you don't get that bunch. But again, you're top stitching, so you're going to use that 1/8 of an inch with that longer stitch length. I'm just going to do 2, and then I'll back stitch 1. There we go. And just go slow to make sure you stay with an 1/8 of an inch from that edge. I'm going to hand crank just a little bit, because it's not quite at an 1/8 of an inch, but if I go a full stitch length, then it will be more than an 1/8. All right, and then just take it slow, top stitch. Just try your best to keep these pieces as even and straight as possible. And just try to keep, and like I say, you're going all the way up to the very end of the long piece. I'm going to clean my threads up here at the bottom real quick. There we go. Now I'm going slow, but it's more important, I have learned, and it's more important to go a little slower to make sure it looks good than trying to rush through it. Sometimes I have a bad tendency to try to rush through it, and that usually messes me up. All right, so I've got back to the bottom here. Clean up my threads a little bit, make sure they look good. There we go. So see how I stitched all the way from the very bottom to the very top here and then back down. So that's your top stitching. And then what you're going to do once you do that is she gives you measurements to where to fold this down over and the piece, and she has you match these together like this in the pattern. However, I personally want it to go down just a little more, like about a half of an inch more. On my other bags, when I did it this way, I didn't necessarily like that look because I felt that it pulled a little bit when my gate ring was put on. So the pattern does tell you to match it, but I'm going to go a half inch over, and then I'm going to put a sliver of tape, though I'm going to still put my sliver of tape here, because when I fold it over like this, I'm going to put a rivet through here, and I don't want the tape in the way of punching my rivet or putting my rivet through, because it will interfere with my riveting. But if you go a half of an inch, that will give you clearance past the stitching, and you'll still hit this piece here, and then that'll give you that look, to me, a little cleaner of a look than having them meet like that, if that makes sense. Again, in my other ones, I felt like it was pulling, and it just, to me, it was, I like it to look that way a little bit better, is the look that I like in my bags. And it's just a half of an inch, so it really doesn't take away from the strap. I mean, basically, it maybe make this just a tad bit shorter, but it's not, that doesn't take away the overall look of the bag by going just a half an inch past that. So I'm going to throw a little bit of tape here, again, right at the top where the short piece ends, and I'm staying within that top stitching so the tape's not showing. And then I'm going to fold this over, give it my little half inch fold over, but press it down here so that helps hold it a little better. I like it holds it like that. And then I will make a mark about midway through here, my half inch, and make a mark, and that's where my rivet placement's going to go. Probably about a quarter of an inch up should be sufficient past that stitch line. And then let me see, here we go. 1, 2, 3/8 over, and a quarter inch up and 3/8 inch over is where I'm making my mark for my rivet. That's not going to show up. I need a darker pen. I'll show you here what I did. See, that's what I did there. That's where I'm going to punch the hole for my rivet and place my rivet. It's clear of my stitching, but it still will hit that piece underneath it, and I'll have my plenty of room, and it'll still have that nice stitch, that nice look on this as a strap connector on my bag. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other one, because you need, again, you need two, one for each side of your strap connectors. So I'm going to sew this piece together and then place my rivet in, and then I will be back once my straps are sewn together and the rivets placed. Okay, silly me, I gave you wrong information. You don't rivet these yet until you put them on your side or your gussets. So once you get that little double-sided tape and you have that folded down, you want to grab your two gusset pieces, exterior gusset pieces, where you have the lines already marked. What you're going to do is, she does give you measurements on where to place the rivets on this. Now she does have you do a little rectangle stitch around the side of this little strap connector, and then you do rivet it on. I apologize, I forgot that step, so we're going to go ahead and get that stitched on at the measurements that she gives you. I'm getting my measurement here. I'm going to get my little chalk pencil and then make that mark real quick. Okay. Sorry, I have to keep double checking to make sure I get this marked correctly, since I missed since I was giving you incorrect information there for a second. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mark where I need to place my other rivet. That's that. I need to do that. I need to make sure it's in the right spot. There we go. All right. So I've got it marked. Where I'm going to do the white mark is where the where I'm going to stitch it to the gusset, and the little black dot is where I'm going to punch the hole in the thing. And I'm going to go ahead and punch this first, where I have both my holes in the piece, and then I'm going to stitch it on, because that way when I punch the holes through the gusset, it's a little more accurate, because I've already got these holes placed in here, if that makes sense. I'm not going through all of the layers of my material. So just do it as straight as you can, matching up on your piece, and then you're going to go ahead and do a stitch. Now you want to, on your stitch, you want to make sure that you stay within the top stitch that's already there. You want to pull your threads long, and because you're going to pull your threads through so you don't see back stitching on your piece. So starting where your top stitch is where you're going to start your stitching, and then go over and then stop at your other side where your top stitch is. If you have to manually crank it to get that, make sure that's accurate, then you should do that, and then give it that down, and then give it a turn. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stitch directly on the top stitch that's already there. And you just, of course, have to be very careful. Make sure your threads are out of the way so you don't accidentally stitch them in your current stitching that you're going to do. And basically when I do this, I go really slow. I take a few stitches, look, and take a few more. I mean, that's the best way I have found to do this, to make sure that you stay on that line. One more stitch, and then cross over at that line. since I've crossed over and I've got this long thread away from the presser foot, I'm going to pull my little thread through. Basically, you're going to flip your piece up, grab the little tail here on the inside, give it a slight tug until you'll see a little pop through, and then you'll see a small little loop that'll pop through. I know you can't see it on the camera very well, but you're going to grab it. You can get a stick pin. I just grab my seam ripper, just as long as, of course, I don't cut the thread with it. I just grab the back side of it and then grab hold of it, and then I just pull it through. I just go slow so it's not yanked or it's not pulling on my stitches. Pull it through until you get it to the back side, and then just kind of put them out of the way, and then your thread is not visible on the front, and then you'll tie them off once you get to the end. And I'll show you real quick how I do that, and then just stitch back across. I think I'm gonna have to hand crank again to make sure I stay on my line here, and just go down. And then stop where you start your top stitching. I think I should be fine if I just do it like that. Yep, I stopped right where I started. Crank your needle up, and then what you're going to do is when you pull it out, give it a long, I gotta get closer so I can, there we go, pull it out, but you want to pull it long, a nice long tail from your needle. Pull it out some, grab a hold of it. When you grab hold of it, make sure you keep it long, but obviously don't cut it too short where it's going to roll up or your needle's going to come unthreaded. So cut it off there, but hold on to these threads. Flip your piece over, grab your bottom thread so you're pulling the right thread through, because you do not want to accidentally pull any of the threads where you started your stitching that's already pulled through, or you will have a skipped stitch, so to speak. So grab that, holding on to that thread, and then do the same thing. Give it a little pull till you see the loop, and then pull your thread through there. Make sure you're only pulling that thread. Hold on to it when it comes up. Grab your other two threads, tie it in about 3 knots. That's usually what I do, 3 knots. And then when you cut the tails off, let me make sure these go through the right way so it's not, there we go. I just tie it, I give it a good 3 knots, tight knots. It holds it. And then when I cut some of this off, because it's really long, I still keep it long. I just kind of maybe cut it in half where the threads are still a little long, and I'll just keep them out of the way for right now. I will go back and throw a little bit of tape down to hold it down so it doesn't get caught or stuck in between, stuck out of into seam allowances or whatnot. But that's what it looked like in the back with the longer threads. That's what it looks like in the front. I've already pre-holed the punch there. I've got my rectangle there. You don't see back stitching there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and then punch the holes through the rest of the piece. Just be careful, making sure you're not making that hole any wider, but then they're punching it through so you can see where it's now completely punched through in your 2 spots. Now this is when you add the rivets. Again, I apologize. I gave you misinformation. And since you've got the layers and you've already got the little piece of Decaville there, you can just go ahead and pop your rivets through, and you shouldn't need any additional backing to support your rivets. If you're not using, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't use anything heavier or heavy like this. If you just want a nice soft bag, you do want to back it so you don't have your rivets pull through. Just got to be careful. All right, so my rivets are put in like that. and then that will secure your strap. When you put your upper strap part on, this will secure that strap and it'll be nice and firm. Then you want to set your rivets. I brought my rivet press over with me when I went to get this stuff. So just go ahead and set your rivets. I did purchase this rivet press when I started making more bags because I was finding myself when I was doing the hand set, when I was setting them with my hands by hammering it and whatnot, I was having problems where my rivets would just go totally off and they would go sideways, and I was having a hard time. So I invested in this rivet press, and I got mine from Cam Snaps, and I'm going to tell you what, honestly, that's one of, besides the sewing machine, one of the best investments that I did, because I have improved the looks of my rivets on the bags. I'm not going to lie. You can get rivet presses other places. I just bought mine from Cam Snaps. All right, so what I'm going to do, because this is done and because I am just a nerd, I am going to, I wrapped my threads around my rivets. You know, that's just, I don't know why I just did that, but I did. But you're going to want to cover that up with a piece of tape. Now, rivets in of itself, because they're not rough edges or anything, you typically don't really have to cover it, but I like to cover it for two reasons: just to cover the rivets, and number two, to me, it makes me feel a little more secure with my stitches, and it holds my threads still. Okay, so you're going to do this exact same thing that I just showed you on the other side gusset, and then I'm going to do that real quick, and then I will be right back, and then we will have these side gussets ready to go to sew to our base piece. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have both of my strap connectors on, and these are supposed to hang like that. That gives that little tassel effect that you see. So they've got them both on there with their things, and I did put tape on both of them. And I've got I wrap my strings around my rivets to help them from, you know, just make it a little more compact. But anyways, all right. So then you're going to grab your base exterior, okay? And then this is, my base has a piece of Decaville Heavy, and then I did a little piece of SF101 over top of it. This is a thinner vinyl. It's the faux suede is thin, so I did a little layer of SF101 over top. That will help when I turn the bag, because this is a birthed bag, so this will help when I turn the bag, and as well as it gives it a little more sturdiness to the bottom of the bag. And you don't really need anything really heavy or stiff. It just helps with that, because again, it's a thinner vinyl, and because there's no heavy Decaville in there, it gives that little, helps with that edge. Anyway, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the short side of your base, and you're going to put it right sides together with your one side of your gusset. Center that up. Now you want to make sure that your seam allowance is as accurate as you can get it, because it's very important when you sew this to the main body panel, that this is accurate, because it is plays a role in the assimilation of the final of the bag. So you want to make sure you keep your seam allowance accurate, and then you go ahead and stitch this together. Again, it's right sides together on the short edge with one of your gusset pieces, and then stitch that together. Okay. Let me double check to see if I get my rivet press out of the way. Oh, make sure she does have you do these with the seams open or not. She does. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that she does have you do it with the seams open. So you're going to do the exact same thing on the when you attach the gusset to the base, you're going to open up your seams just like this and do your top stitching on the right side, just like you did the side panels on the front of the bag. So open your seams up. I'm going to get that down, get my seam allowance increased, get some of these clips out of my way. Whew. Okay. Again, seams are open. I'm going to top stitch on both sides of that where that was sewn together. Like that. So there's the one side of your gusset and your base panel with the seams top stitching, and your seams are open, and you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm not going to pause for this because it's a short stitch. We're just going to go ahead and do it real quick. This doesn't take long at all. Just grab me a couple of clips to hold it still. Hold on to your piece so you don't, whoa, sorry about that. my foot's getting a little dead weight there. All right, let's top stitch this open. And then once we get this top stitch, I'm going to show you, I did find strap ends, my 3/4 inch strap ends in my gunmetal gray. I did find that I had some, so I'm going to show you what they look like. I'm not going to install them on camera because it does take a while to do it, or it takes me a while to do it. It's very tedious because you got to these are screwed in versus clamped. You can get two different kind. Well, I've not seen 3/4 inch and the little clamp on ones, only in 1 inch the clamp ons, but there you can get 1 inches in the clamp-ons. You get those from, I've seen those at Cam Snaps, but mostly you see the ones that you have to screw on, and that's the kind that I have for this. And it, like I say, it takes a few minutes to do it, and it's kind of tedious to do it on camera. If anybody wants to see a tutorial on how to install these, I mean, I can do one. I believe there are others out there from other bag makers, but if anybody wants to see me do it, then I can, just let me know. But this is the strap end here. Now I have seen strap ends that are longer. They're more, they're a big longer one, and they're kind of, it's like a lot of strap end, a lot of exposed strap end. I'm not real big on those. I do have a set because I won them, but I don't necessarily use them. But this is basically the strap end here, and then you put, of course, that there's a nice finished smooth side, and then you have this side where it's got two little holes for screws. Obviously, you want to put the nice finished side on the front, and then the back is where you put the screws in. When I install these, I will tell you when I install these, because you can see there's a little bit of a play to it. I always put glue here on the very end, and I use it's like that E600 or the Aleene's Super Duper. The Ultimate is what I currently have. Otherwise, I use the, I think it's E600. I always put a little glue here to help hold that, and then I will take like an awl. I have an awl where I will take and I will pop this. It's dirty right now, so I don't want to touch my vinyl yet, but I will take it and I will just do a little hole where the screw holes are, so the screw goes into the vinyl well. But I will also, on the screw, I have this thread lock. This is the semi-permanent. It's medium strength, semi-permanent thread locker. I put this on the screw so as when it screws in, it keeps the screws, keeps the screws from coming free. That's how I install my strap ends. Otherwise, I worry that they're going to come off, especially since this is really thin, and I worry that this is going to be too loose, but I can make it work. If I have to put a smidgen of piece of Decoville on the end, I might put a smidge of like a little piece of Decoville light. I think right where I have this is heavy. I'm just using this as an example. I don't have any light handy, but I might take a little piece of a Decoville light, fold it over like this, just a smidgen, where it's only visible in the back, and then just where it's at the front here, just a little bit, just to give some bulk, but try not to keep it where you can visually see it. If it's in the back, you won't see it as much, and that way when I put the screws in, that gives it a little more bulk and holds it. I'm not sure. It depends when I do this. If it's too visual, I won't do it because I don't want that look of seeing that in there. But anyway, so what we're going to do then is we're going to get this assembled. I am going to put this on pause while I get all of this rivet stuff out of the way, because I won't need this when I put the bag, and I will need the space on my table. So we'll give it a pause, and then I will be back, and then we will get the front and back panel assembled to our gusset piece. So we'll be back when I get this all straightened out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get the panels sewn to the gusset. Now, first thing that you want to do when you sew the panels, so we're going to start with the front panel. I'm going to set the back panel back aside. I also am using these clips here. These are like heavy duty clips. They're rubber tipped, so they won't harm your fabric because they've got the rubber or the coating on the end, and they're real nice and strong. I like it when I do the bag, sew the bag together, because sometimes, especially when you're doing the gussets, sometimes the little plastic clips will either break or slip. So, and these are real strong, so they help hold things together. Okay, so again, like I was just saying, we're going to start with, I'm starting with the front panel. So I've got my gusset here, and then I'm going to place my front panel right sides together with my gusset. I am going to start with the center of the bottom of my bag. And remember, we've already marked the center part of this bag, so we have accurate center markings. And then this is where, when I was talking earlier, when I was sewing the gusset, make sure your seam allowances are accurate when you do these, because this is where that comes into play. So let me get these out of the way and try to hold it a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I've got my center mark on my panel, front panel, and the center mark on the base. Now, what you can do to make sure that you are accurate with your center, because you marked your centers of the panel prior to sewing everything together, you want to go ahead and give it a check. So what I do is I fold over the where the gusset or the side gusset is sewn to the base. I will match those two seams together to make sure those are equal. I'm just going to use a plastic clip for this, because this is just to hold it temporarily. And then I'm going to mark it on the other side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold down to make sure my centers are accurate. And that is still my center point, and that still marks as my center point. So that is good, because when you do these seam allowances, you might have one a little shorter or a little longer than the other, and that could mess up your centers. So that works. But then what you also want to do is go to the top and look at the top to make sure these match as well. So I'm going to close it up and I'm going to check it, and then these still look accurate as well as far as the seam allowances are concerned. And I'll show you why I'm double checking this here in 2 seconds. So now that we've checked it to make sure everything is still correct in the seam, in the center marks, I'm going to lay my gusset right side up. And then I'm going to take the center of my panel and lay it right side together with the center of my gusset, the base of my gusset. Mark that, clip that together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go over to where your side panel is attached to your base, the center panel. You're going to take that seam, where that seam is right here, and you're going to match it to where the base is sewn onto the side gusset. Those need to match. So you're going to take it and then just work that and match those seams together. I'm going to clip off to the side so you can see. So there's where my seam is with my gusset and my base panel. And there is my seam from my center panel and my side panel. And if you look, I've got them marked to where the seams match. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and put a clip right there between the center and that mark there. So that flattens out, and it makes sure you're not got any big puckers or any, unevenness. And that's because that's very important, because that's the flow of how the bag works and how the gusset fits on the bag. You're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. You're going to match them up, give it a clip. Then I'm going to put a clip in between to hold that secure. Now, next you're going to do, after that, you're going to take the top part of your gusset. Again, that's where the top part of your gusset, top of the bag, is where you've got the little corners clipped. You're going to take that, and then you're going to pull the top of your bag on the side here and match that flat piece up to the side of your gusset right there, where you see where it goes up like that. You're going to take this and you're going to match it with that like this. I'm going to pull it together, and then I'll show you before I clip it. So you're going to take that and match that up with that like that. And then if I can get it to twirl a little bit, you're going to take it and you're going to try to match it like that, where they're flat together. Do you see how I have that? I know it's peeking up a little bit, but if you work it like that and then you've got it flat together, you're going to clip it. Now, what I like to do, it wants to twist, is I like to take a clip and clip up at the top, and that holds that a little better. I know these are kind of big. We'll hold that, and then you're going to go and you're going to work down from there on your gusset and clip down the side, and just kind of make sure your pieces match. Or I should say, when you do that, mark it like that. Now this is this gusset's fits pretty well. I need to unclip that a little bit because my gusset needs to be fixed. There we go. Okay. And then I'm just going to keep clipping it down. Now, sometimes you will need to just do some small snips into your gusset to help it relax a little bit. So when you go around this curve, it will get really tight, and it'll not look like it doesn't fit well. It's just because it's in that, you're trying to fit a rounded edge and down into that. And you just do a couple little snips in the gusset. My scissors, there they are. You don't want to, and you want to stay within the seam allowance so you don't see the snips, of course. I'm just going to do a couple little snips. Right now I'm just going to do them at 1/8 of an inch. And again, that just relaxes the edge of the gusset. And then I'm just going to work this, and I'm going to need to do it like this, and then I will show you what I did. I need to clip that back. There we go. All right, so see, that's how your gusset looks right there. You can see how it goes in, and you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Now, be careful when you do this that these little flappy things don't get in the way of you sewing, like sewing down through here. One of the bags I previously sewn, it just was just a tiny bit, and the little end strap covers, you can't see it because it was just the tiniest little bit that got caught in my seam. So just be careful they stay out of the way when you do this. Just double check it when you put the clips on. Whoa. I'm going to just clip it down, and then when I get to where it starts getting a little tight with the gusset, I'm going to go ahead and put I put like 4 snips in. And then I just go ahead and clip around it. There we go. So now my front panel is clipped to my gusset. You see how that's all clipped in there. It's a lot of clips, but it's just to hold everything still. And then you're going to go in and sew it at the seam allowance that she gives in the pattern. You want to get to around the gussets, you want to be really careful and go slow. And then also, what I'll do is I will show a little bit of sewing this gusset on just to kind of show you a little bit of it when you get around around these edges. And then what I'm going to do is once I get through half of this, I will then go ahead and throw it on a pause so you don't have to see the whole thing. And then when you sew the back of the back panel to the gusset, you're going to do the exact same thing. Do your centers, match your stitching marks together from your panels, and then clip from the top, and then clip down the sides. A few things to note when you sew gussets. The first time I sewed a gusset, it was actually an Emmeline Bags pattern, and she advised you to sew like the sides, each side first, and then the bottom, and then after you sewed those, then you sew the gusset. Or I'm sorry, then you sew the rounded edges. Once all that gets secured, you go to the rounded edges. If that's something that you want to try, you can do that. It's nothing wrong with doing it that way. It's just that I've sewn enough gussets now that I'm comfortable just going around the whole thing. But that's one way of sewing gussets on if you don't like them or you're not used to doing gussets. It's just an idea that I thought I'd mention as far as gusset sewing. Because the first time I sewed a purse, which was that one, with a gusset, I said I'd never sew another purse with a gusset again. And just about every bag, I think 2 out of 3 bags I sew have gussets on them. They do have their moments, but once you're used to them, it's just you just got to take your time. All right, so I had to double check my seam allowance to make sure I was doing an accurate seam allowance. So that's what I was doing just a second ago when I made my hesitation. So I'm gonna grab my threads. Of course, you're gonna back stitch at the beginning to secure that piece. Again, just take it slow. I mean, this is straight. See, whoops, you can go a little fast, not quite that fast, but you can go a little faster. Now, there are a couple things that you can do also when you get to that rounded edge. Of lately, I've seen a lot of bag makers use flathead screwdrivers to help hold the piece down versus a stiletto. That's an excellent option. I'm not a big stiletto user, and I do sometimes use the little screwdriver. I don't know why. I prefer just to use my fingers most of the time, but that's an option to hold these gussets down as you sew around them, because when you get to these rounded edges, they do want to shift and move. If it goes off a little bit, like a 1/16 or even an 1/8 of an inch, you can just clean that up, but you don't want it to go off too far, because it will change the shape of your bag. Just kind of, I sometimes use the screwdriver to help hold that flush, because it'll want to pick up and pucker a little bit. You just kind of gotta work with it. Again, the biggest thing is just go slow. Get around that. Get this clip off here. There you go. And then, whoa. I always kind of pick up speed a little bit when I hit them straightaways here. All right. Just watch for puckers. All right, right through the gussets. And then once you get that sewn on like that, you want to take a look at the inside of your bag to make sure you don't have any puckers in your bag. I thought, no, that's not a pucker. It's just the way the suede, the faux suede is. So that's fine. I was thinking I had a pucker, but my little flaps are free. They didn't get caught. So that's what the inside looks like when you get the panel on. So then what you're going to do for the back panel or the other panel, you're going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to get the back panel sewn onto the bag, and then when I come back, we will have the exterior of the bag complete, and then we'll get it turned right side out, and then we can take a look at it. And then that will, let's see, I think, yeah, that will end part 1 of making this bag once we get the exterior complete, and then we will move on to part 2, which starts with the zipper placket. So part 2, we will start with the zipper placket that I added on, and then I will show you how I do that since that's not in the pattern. So let me get this back panel sewn on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we've got the bag completed. As far as the exterior is concerned. Now I did go in, now it's not in the pattern, but I did go in and just used my pinking shears and just did a little bit of about a 1/4 inch off of the edges, just to help cut out some of the bulk. That's a personal preference that I did, but like I said, it's not in the pattern, so it's not something necessary that has to be done. I just wanted to cut a little bit of bulk out of the edge for it, when I open it up, it'll lay a little smoother. All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn this right side out. And we're going to check our seams and make sure everything looks nice. It's a real easy bag to turn with like this. Nice. This faux suede is very nice and very soft, so it makes it really nice to turn. And I was able to keep my little strap connectors free. I didn't catch them in my seams, which was nice. You want to make sure your seams match up. I'll show you that here in just a second. If I can pull that. There we go. Just smooth out your because they're rounded edges, so I was going to say corners, but they're not corners. Just smooth out your sides, I guess we could say, the side and the bottom. Get a nice push hair out. Make it look nice and work. You just kind of got to work it a little bit. Sometimes you just have to roll them too to get them to look nice. There we go. Just give it a nice little fold like that. There we go. So there's my bag there. Let me pull the camera up a little bit. Bear with me just a second. Try not to touch Sarah and get her going. There we go. Okay. So there's my bag right here. Like I said, this is a softer vinyl. This is, like I said, this faux suede is very soft, so it looks loose, but of course it's just the exterior of the bag. But it needs to relax a little bit too. But so there's the exterior of the bag. You've got the little side connectors, the bag, and then there's the base. So this is what I was talking about. You want to make sure these, when you match them up, so it looks, it just flows better when you have these seams matched. So that's just what I wanted to show you how that works. When I get the lining and everything in there too, and the zipper placket on, it'll shape up a little bit better. But that's where we're at right now. I'm going to clip it. I sometimes like to throw a little clip at the top just to hold it and its shape a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to end this part 1 with getting the exterior completed. And then part 2 will be the lining, getting that lining put together, the zipper placket, and then we will do the final construction for part 2. So it may take a minute, but we're going to get it all complete on part 2. So this is my bag, stereo of my bag. It's so cute, and I love that thread. It's beautiful. Really just adds a little bit to the bag, especially since it is a solid color bag. It gives a little bit of character. So there we go. All right. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. If you found me by search and you're not a subscriber, I would appreciate if you become a subscriber. I would love that. Also, if you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate that. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the tutorial, what you think about my materials, my threads, if you like it. I mean, I'd appreciate any comments. I get, a few comments here and there, and every comment is much appreciated. I do love the feedback that I do get. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.